Welcome back to another edition of Committed, your college planning playbook. I hope you've had a great summer because here's what's happened during the summer. Things are changing. And Johnny, we have a top 3 or 4 things we want to make sure that every family knows about as they move in to this next application year. Once again, this is Committed, the college planning playbook. John, man, how has your summer been?
Hot and fast.
Hot and fast.
Hot and fast.
Is Pittsburgh's been hot like all year. When is the last time there was decent weather in Pittsburgh?
Our weather here's been weird. We had unseasonably warm days in March.
Yeah.
We had about 8 weeks of nothing but gray and rain
Yeah.
in like May and early parts of June. And then since then, it's been hot,
Yeah.
like unbearably hot.
Down in Oklahoma, we had a mild April, which is pretty good because that's tornado season. In May, light on the tornadoes. But it has rained a lot in May and June, and even into early July. 4th of July in Oklahoma this year, the high on the 4th of July was 88. I mean, you're talking about an amazing 4th of July.
Yeah, that sounds
Oh,
comfortable.
yeah. It is now late July and it is hot. Someone turned the oven on, man. Oven on. Have you gotten away to spend some time with your family on vacation?
We did. We did spend some time down in Florida. We did the whole
Okay.
Universal thing. My 6-year-old and 4-year-old. I mean, not much of a vacation for us, but they loved it, so it was worth it, obviously.
There's
And
a rule, Johnny, when it's a vacation with your family, it's not a vacation, it's a family trip. When
yeah,
your wife goes somewhere as adults, that's vacation.
see, that's exactly it. A family trip, I'm just paying to yell at my kids at a different place. But, you know, it is what it is.
Well, we're getting ready to dive into August, right? And here comes the new application season. August 1st will be right around the corner, ladies and gentlemen, where the Commpn App will go live for fall 26 admissions. So, with those, we want to real quickly update with you today some of the changes that we see in the college admissions landscape moving forward into this 26 application cycle. John, one of the major ones that are coming up that people are talking all about, there's lots of confusion, there's lots of question, and that's the changes. Those are the changes taking place with the ACT. So, with all the changes taking place in the college admissions world right now, one of the major ones that is happening is ACT. What kind of questions are you getting and how are you answering them, John?
Biggest question is it more user friendly than it used to be?
Mm,
And should I take it? And
yeah,
should I not?
yeah,
Two biggest questions. I think whether you're a rising senior looking to get a last minute test score in, or a rising junior where you're kind of starting, to tap into your test prep for the year, I see using the ACT as a great opportunity.
yeah, absolutely.
And, and the reason I say that is, for anybody who is familiar with how it used to be structured, it was a very long rapid fire test. The majority of the gripes that we would hear from our kids, it wasn't from a content standpoint. The questions felt very manageable. It was, I had very little time to process.
Yeah,
And to address those issues, ACT, they've been slowly rolling this new version out. And so I think September is really when we're going to see most of the effects of that, because now there's going to be a lot more locations where you can take it digitally on paper. They are making the science section optional. So for all of those students that feel like that could be a way to boost your overall resume, you can add on the science section. And they are reducing the amount of questions asking, and they are also giving you more time to get. And for the rising seniors at this point, hopefully you have your scores in, or at least kind of where you're sitting at. A lot of people think going into application season, you have to have your scores in hand to be able to submit.
yeah,
Not the case. On the day you submit your application, you need to know one main thing. Are you submitting test scores, yes or no? If it's yes, great. You just need to make sure that you get your best score in by the application deadline, Something in the meantime as a placeholder is a bonus. Or if you have no intention of submitting, you haven't taken them, your score is not going to truly reflect your capabilities, then you're going to select no. But I think this is a great way because it's so new and because, as we've seen in the past, every kid is a different skill set and just they seem to vibe better than one test with the other. You're going from, somebody who isn't maybe necessarily great in math, your SAT is 50% of your math score
Yeah.
versus on the ACT, it's only 33%. So it's an opportunity that I think a lot of people should take advantage of, at least testing the waters.
Yeah, I think the question I get here more than anything is, with the ACT having the test optional for the science part of it, do I need to take the science test? And what I have to remind families all the time, and what I remind students all the time, is ACT sets the rules for taking the ACT.
Mhm.
ACT does not set the rules for what a school wants for admissions. So ACT is just a tool schools use for admissions. And so to determine whether you really need to be taking the optional science portion of the ACT, well, that expectation is really created by the school that you're interested in applying to. And if just one of your schools requires that science portion, you're going to need to be taking that optional part of the ACT that's just science. And so I think sometimes what families get confused about is who's making the rules here. And the colleges make the rules, right? With the same thing that we see changing this year, which is a tied to ACT, is the test optional landscape, right? It was you were always an option whether you took the ACT or not. But once again, the colleges make the rules for their admissions, and they're telling you whether they want it or not. What are you seeing now as we've come out of COVID a few years now? What are you seeing in your part of the country as far as schools wanting or the ACT or SAT test, or are they going back to, are they going back, are they staying in their test optional space?
I think everything is trending towards they will be back.
Yeah.
It's just a matter of when.
Yeah.
There's enough data from, however many college kids, entered during COVID, progressed through college, got their degrees. The Ivies, I think, were the ones that kind of spearheaded this, where, they started tracking, okay, our kids who went in test optional, how did they perform in college, test optional versus the kids who submitted their scores. And there was a pretty big discrepancy as far as, yeah, they were able to decide that test scores play a major indicator. And what is it now? 5 out of the 7 Ivy League schools are requiring them for upcoming application cycle. And then, the Ohio States come into play, Tennessee's, the Purdue's.
Yeah.
I think that, when we identify the schools who are more likely to do it, I think it's going to be the larger public schools where they're getting a lot of applications. And I think it's going to be an easier way for them to filter out applications. I think a lot of the smaller private schools will remain test optional longer. But in most cases, I'm going into 26. The majority are still going to be test optional. We don't want to use that as a crutch. But for all of my class of 2027s and beyond, my game plan is we need to get this score up as high as we can because odds are they're going to be in play somewhere.
I think that's solid advice, Johnny. I think that if I'm a student out there and I'm a family right now and I'm going to be a senior, right? I'm in the fall of 26 cycle. I mean, on August 1st and early August, you need to be finding out right now, as soon as possible, whether the schools that you're interested in applying to are test optional or not, right? Do not rest and think, well, they've been at test optional for this long. We will know for sure in August, right? They will set the standard. If you are not part of the fall 26 cycle, if you're a rising junior, sophomore, so forth, you just need to prepare for taking the test.
Mhm.
Right? It's too far out for you to say, oh, I'll worry about it when I get there. Because if when you get there, you have to take it, it's too late. It's too late. You've missed tons of opportunity to prepare. So, seniors, you need to be looking as the information comes out here in August, what the final standards are and requirements are to attend a school and get admitted. Juniors and undergrads, you just need to assume that you're probably going to need to take the test. You're better to be prepared and not have to take it than find out that you have to take it and not be prepared. So, lots of changes in standardized testing world, whether it's the changes of the ACT or whether it's the changes in test optional and what schools want to see from standardized test. But there's also changes that are tied to financial aid. And one of the things I'm really excited about this year is it sounds like FAFSA is going to go back to that August 1st release where it was a few years ago. And this is going to really help families get ahead of the game a little bit. How do you think that's going to be beneficial to the families you work with that now we're not having to wait till December? It's going to be released out in October 1st now.
It's a game changer. Now, the way that the FAFSA application functioned last year makes me hopeful that October 1st will be the date because it was a very smooth, very seamless process. They worked out whatever bugs and kinks that were from 2023. It's not necessarily, oh, it's a sooner chance for me to submit this application. All of the financial aid awards, so any federal, state funding coming through is going to be dependent on the results from that application. So it is not necessarily just, oh, great, I can do this sooner. It is also, we can get our financial aid packages back sooner. So then you're not going into February and March, possibly April for some schools, and still not being certain of what the price is going to be.
That's really tough.
Several years back before they revamped it, and that October 1st application opened, it was pretty standard. I mean, Rennie, correct me if I'm wrong. It was pretty standard for all schools to release their financial aid packages by February, worst case scenario.
March, yeah, you should know your stuff. Before spring break, you should know your package.
Yeah, which I think is fair because it gives families, that 2 to 3 months where, if money is a true factor, like you have the time to be able to kind of, dig through this stuff versus the last couple of years where you have to commit by May 1st and you don't get your financial package until April. It's a crunch.
Crunch. It's a really good crunch, and I agree with you 100%. I think I'm hopeful this year. Hopeful that yeah, hopeful that they'll be able to move back to the October 1st release date. That's what we're planning on. And what John said is exactly right. Last year, the process for the families I worked with as well seemed to be much smoother. Even though that started later, they were getting information back earlier, and all of that empowers our families to make more educated and not have to feel like they're forced to make quick decisions. Other things that are happening is from Trump's big, beautiful bill. Is there some changes that people need to be paying attention to as far as financial aid when it comes to need-based aid, even loans, those different types of things. Trump's big, beautiful bill addressed some of those issues, and we just are going to still be clarifying some of the things that comes out of that bill as far as need-based aid, loans, Pell Grants, and whatnot, and how you qualify for those things. So families that are out there looking at those possibilities and need that kind of support, this is another area where you need to be paying attention, educating yourself, not being afraid to ask questions. All right, very, very important. John, third one that I want to bring up to you is there is going to be a little bit of change when people dive into the Common App. If you have a student that has never applied to college through the Common App, you're not going to notice this change. But if you have a student that has applied through the Common App before, you might notice a subtle change in the application under the General tab. John, tell them a little bit about that and how that can affect students.
I'm excited about the change.
Yeah.
For anybody who has seen the Common App within the last 15 years, it's looked relatively the same. The way the things are formatted, the way it's structured, it's very archaic. It's very like 1995 Windows processor. And so from everything that they have revealed, aesthetically, I think it's going to look more up to date. Um, they're going to make a couple minor changes to like way to like check different boxes for certain activities. Um, I think one of the major changes is so in the additional writing section, so there is a section where beneath your personal statement, students typically have space to be able to share in 650 words. Is there anything else that you need to provide that hasn't been captured in the rest of your application? I believe that is going to be trimmed from 650 to, I believe, 300 words. So that additional workspace. And then I believe that there was some other update that was being released, and it had something to do with it was either a challenge or I can't think off the top of my head, but there was some minor change where it didn't hit everybody, but there was a space where students could be able to also put in extenuating circumstances.
And I think, people have asked, before, what is that additional space typically used for? This is a place where students, can maybe talk about why they struggled this semester or why they messed up a grade of something of that nature. This is just things like that where there was additional information that a family felt they could, or a student could feels like needed to explain some things. So it's not gone away. I think that is an important thing to realize. It's not gone away, but it is changed a little bit as far as how much space you have to make those additional information available to the admissions officer. Well, John, here's the thing that we always say, right? In this world and in this game of college admissions, everything's always changing, right?
Awesome.
Changing. And that's what it makes it exciting and makes it interesting. But it's a warning to all of us that we always need to stay on top of our game. We always need to be paying attention to the changing landscape of college admissions. And, the fallacy out there is that it's just like it was when I went to college. Well, I went,
Mm.
I went to college when I was applying to college back in the 90s. It has changed a lot, right? And maybe you're not as old as me. I can promise you it's changed a lot. I'm going to put you on the spot a little bit, John. Since 2020, what are three major changes just in the last 5 years? What are the three major changes you've seen in college admissions just in the last 5 years?
Oh, Jesus. The usage of early decision, early action applications,
Absolutely.
test optional versus test scores being required. And the third, direct admit programs.
Yeah, really an increase of that, right? And what he's
Direct,
meaning by programs, ladies and gentlemen, is you're not being only directly admitted to the college, you're talking about directly admitted to the major program that you're applying to, right? So, for example, you can apply to the Texas Christian University in Fort Worth, Texas, to be admitted to Texas Christian. You may or may not get admitted to TCU, but then you are also applying to their nursing program, which is extremely, extremely competitive. So, knowing the difference between those two things is vital. Once again, this world is always changing. Ask questions, educate yourself, and make sure that that information and that education empowers you to play the college admissions playbook. John, man, it's been too long. Let's do it again soon, and keep doing what you're doing, man. Love you, brother.
bet. Love you too. Sam.